$1.6 trillion, $100 billion of plussed-up spending, $14 billion for Ukraine without a single debate here on the floor of the House about how much money we should spend, what we should get out of it. No change to the mandate of vaccines being stuck in the arms of our men and women in uniform or Border Patrol or the requirements of healthcare workers. No change on border security, none. No requirements whatsoever on border security. That's not getting a win. And now here we sit, and the gentleman raised the important question. We got about maybe 5 minutes to be respectful of our friend from Wisconsin's
who
generous
also
time.
didn't vote for that bad bill, by
Correct.
the way.
And he understands what the swamp is all about. And I would just say, the gentleman brought up the impact. I think it's one of the most important things we can say here in closing. You brought up the impact in Lynchburg, Virginia, okay? People think this is just a border issue and I come down here because it's Texas. Yeah, we're taking it on the chin. I have ranchers who are crying. I have people who are victims of crime. I have migrants in my district who are abused, all in the false name of compassion about open borders. And we got to sit back and we got to find dead bodies of migrants on ranches, get a morgue brought down to put 115 dead bodies in one county. And my Democratic colleagues are like, whatever, who cares? It's just some problem we just got to deal with. And that's the reality, but it stretches throughout the country.
That's right.
If the gentleman will oblige, if he agrees with these numbers, we're looking at about 1 million illegal encounters in just 6 months of this year.
That's right.
We have seen more than 6 times as many daily apprehensions since Mayorkas took office. In March alone, there were 97,000 southern border encounters. Of those, through half the month, of those, 51% were removed under Title 42. So it tells you half are being removed from Title 42 and they're about to end it. We have, Mayorkas has used Title 42 as the basis for almost every one of those removed. So what will it look like if this past year without Title 42? Title 42 has been used, I think the gentleman would agree, more than 1.7 million times during this pandemic.
That's right, 2 years.
In fact, under Secretary Mayorkas' DHS, we've seen more than 2.2 million encounters, and everyone who wasn't turned away under Title 42 were released.
Into the interior of the country.
700,000 releases last year. Now, what about this? In fiscal year 21, Border Patrol encountered 10,700 criminal non-citizens. 3,662 have been arrested thus far in 2022. The combined timeframes include roughly 85 convictions of manslaughter or homicide, 604 sexual offenses, almost 3,000 convictions of illegal drug possession. Based on reports, at least 14 who are on the terrorist watch list. In just the first 5 months of fiscal 22, Border Patrol encountered 525,000 people other than Mexico. In just the first 5 months of fiscal year 22, Border Patrol encountered 421 Chinese nationals. Russia, in just the first 5 months of fiscal year 22, Border Patrol encountered 7,191 Russians out the southwest border. I say all of that to say this. When we don't secure our border, when we turn Border Patrol into a processing organization, we leave our borders wide open for gotaways. And then we have dangerous narcotics and fentanyl pouring into our communities, and we have people dying, and we have gangs. Can the gentleman speak to the deaths and the gangs and the crime and the impact in Virginia, 1,500 miles away from where we're even talking about?
Yeah, the illegal drugs that are pouring in across the country, fentanyl and other dangerous drugs at record levels, is the reason why we had 100,000 overdose deaths a year ago in this country, in 2021. Number one cause of death for individuals between 18 and 45 was not COVID, it was overdose. And as you're on the border trips that I've been on, and again, a couple of those with you, when you meet with the folks who live there, who live on the front lines, and they talk about these illegals, they'll find the carpet shoes. We saw them. You see the carpet shoes and the camos. Once they get picked up by their crime cartel contact and picked up to go wherever they want to go in the interior of the country, you find the carpet shoes, you find the camos left behind. You also find, or you'll have those folks who live there tell you they're coming onto their property, they're knocking on their door, they're threatening them, they're making demands of them. These folks who live on the border, again, they're finding dead bodies. In the previous trip I was on in Arizona, they said they apprehended 30 Chinese nationals on their property, to your point. 160 different countries, not just Central and South America, as if that wasn't enough, but to your point, 160 different countries. is making, again, every town a border town, every state a border state. It's a dereliction of duty on behalf of this president's administration, and it's a threat to the national security of our country, to the sovereignty of our country, to the health security of our country, to the financial security of our country, and I appreciate your leadership on this issue.
Well, thank the gentleman from Virginia. I'm at just over 29 minutes, so I would tell the gentleman from Wisconsin that I'm going to wind down here in the next minute and appreciate his time, his leadership, his indulgence. I also want to thank the speaker and the staff for being here while we're continuing to talk about this important topic. I'll just close by saying this is a massive national security issue. This is a massive issue of the most important relevance to the safety and well-being of the people that we represent. Why this body is not engaged in just a complete and full and robust review, hearings, oversight, and legislation to ensure that we protect the sovereignty of the United States and enforce the laws of the United States is beyond me. The People's House has an obligation. Article 1 has an obligation to check Article 2 and to demand that those executing the laws actually do so. And so I would just respectfully submit to the Speaker and to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, when are we going to do our job? How many dead migrants found on ranches is enough? How many dead Americans from fentanyl overdoses, fentanyl poisonings to be more accurate, is enough? How much money flowing into the hands of dangerous cartel organizations, transnational organizations turning Mexico into a narco-terrorist state is enough? How much do we have to suffer as a people in this country, as a state in Texas, but again, the migrants who seek to come here, getting sold into the sex trafficking trade, getting abused and dying in the heat along the southern border? How much of that do we have to tolerate before my colleagues on the other side of the aisle wake up? And with that, I will yield back to the gentleman from